Happy
Remember?
Saturday.
Yeah, you too. Good to see you.
Yeah, this little room that I'm in, I'm actually in my garage. So I'm in the
Okay.
process of it was my recording studio when I was doing music, but I'm in the process of expanding that back wall so it can be like my spagyric lab and my podcast slash recording studio.
Nice.
So
Cool. A little remodeling, huh?
a little
Project.
remodeling. It needs some ventilation, man, because like I don't know how hot it's been over there. It's been almost 90 out here. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's got pretty warm yesterday. I was feeling pretty beat after work, being
Yeah,
out in the sun all day, but it's good. It's good to get out in the sun too.
dude, for sure, man. Charge those batteries.
So that's so interesting. That's one thing I wanted to ask you about the Spagyrics. I know nothing about Spagyrics other than you introducing it to me in our last couple of conversations.
Yeah. It's oh man, it's such a fascinating subject. So the word spagyric, right? It means alchemy. And and then what it represents, represents the taking apart and then recombining, combined together, right? So it is the alchemy process where you pretty much in the plant aspect, you're breaking the plant down to all of its three parts: the mercury, the sulfur, and the salt, right? And these all correspond into the celestial uh, energies as well with that plant, that specific plant.
Elemental or
Oh, both.
celestial or either or both, right?
Yeah, both for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you're breaking the plant down to its base energies, and then you're putting them back together. So you're not changing the plant; you are working with the energies and recombining them to make it a more powerful, energetic medicine or plant.
Now, does that mean is that with one particular plant? Say you're working with rosemary, for instance. Now, does Spagyrics imply that you're mixing that with another plant, or is it just one plant at a time type of thing, or you're taking the base elements of rosemary and mixing it with calendula flower or something?
Yeah, you can mix plants, but that's almost like on an advanced level.
Okay.
The thing with when I'm doing, and again, I'm still in the very beginning stages, the student stages. But yeah, I'm working with one plant at a time for
So
sure.
it's more about the process of purifying that plant or breaking it down from one form to another, to a liquid form, or distilling it in some way, right?
Yeah, yeah. Usually, like how I'm doing it, I'm fermenting it first, right? To break it down to
Okay.
get the volatile essence and the oil out, and then I distill it. I do a steam
Mhm.
distillation to capture that oil. And then after that, I take the plant material that's been distilled and then burn that down to a white ash, right? It's called
Hmm.
calcifying it, so it's down to its sulfur, and then you can mix the alcohol, the oil, and then the plant ash together. So you have a three-part combination, and that's the sulfur is um, um, I'm sorry, no, the mercury is the life essence, right? The salt is the astral essence, and then the sulfur is the plant material.
How what got you down this road of starting to learn about this? Was there a particular person that introduced it to you, or a book or a video that kind of got you going on it?
Yeah, I actually brought some books in to show you real quick. So
Cool, right on.
this book right here, it's called Magic and Medicine of Plants. I found this at a yard sale, right, about 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what's awesome about it, it doesn't actually get into spagyrics. It gets into a little bit of alchemy in the beginning mythology of the history, but it breaks down. And this book's like from the 80s. It's actually a Reader's Digest book, which is
Oh,
surprising.
okay. Yeah.
And
No,
it's
they do a
got
lot of good stuff.
yeah, it's got great pictures and it talks about the plants. Now, I was raised on a ranch, so I'm always growing up, walking through the creek. I'm always around plants um, that, normal suburban or urban places, residential places don't really have. So I've always been fascinated by plants, trees, and all that stuff. But when I started realizing that what people call weeds are
Hmm.
actually just that's such a derogatory term, right? I don't even like the term. I mean, these plants have so many benefits to them. It was mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
Completely mind-blowing.
Speaking of that term, that's kind of what started my interest in herbalism was weed, smoking weed. That was a big thing when I was
Talking about
17, 18.
cannabis.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, nice.
I've been pretty much a lifetime cannabis smoker,
Awesome.
um, most of my life, whenever possible. And, in my later years, I'm trying to find a way to get a better balance on how I use that plant. But, and part of that realization process was realizing I had to become more sober and conscious and aware. But during that period of time, I'm asking myself, man, there's got to be a lot of other cool plants. This plant, as much as I could say it's bad that I'm so addicted to it, it has opened up so many avenues of learning for me, and
Definitely.
ways I appreciate uh, relationships, all kinds of things that this plant has provided for me. And I started thinking, there's a lot of other herbs out there, right? And so through that relationship I already had with cannabis, I started exploring other plants. And
Yeah.
I discovered it was during the period of time when I got really into listening to podcasts. And I discovered Herb Mentor, a guy named John Gallagher.
Okay.
And he's got a really cool website. There's two websites. One's called Learning Herbs, and I'm going to blank on the other one. But um, there's just so much free information out there about herbalism and different ways to look at it. And as I get into it, what I'm learning is using herbs is nothing like our allopathic traditional way we think of Western medicine. They talk about it differently.
Sure.
It's like learning a whole new language. It's not like, oh, I have a cough right now. What is the medicine for that? Oh, I need to go get this herb is the right medicine. I'm taking for that cough. That's not the way you want to look at herbalism at all. The whole idea of alchemy and mixing things and um, the environment of your body and food as medicine is the simplest way they say it. But I'm
Yeah,
very interested in herbs and trying to take back my ability to handle my own health.
absolutely. I mean, there's been countless personal experiences where the plants have helped me out. Whether it's health, whether it's my psoriasis condition or addiction itself, like the plants have been there and it's amazing. And that's one thing I've learned by working, gardening and foraging and working with these plants and stuff is that um, the energies of them correspond to the human mind and then to natural law. It's mind-blowing how there's so many correspondences and you can use those like you said food is medicine. It's a lost gnosis that in prehistory that was common
Yeah,
sense to them.
it should
And
have been everyday knowledge that plant I step on every day and call a weed is actually something that can, keep my skin in good condition and help my bones, and I should be eating it every day.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Dude, I wonder what my neighbors think because I'm that guy, right? That's blowing dandelion seeds on his lawn to get the dandelions to grow, right? It's like even on social media, people, there's comments like, "What? That's just a weed, man. That's a weed. It's dandelion. Like, pick that, get rid of it." I'm like, dude, you have no idea. That's
You know
the
what, man?
staple
I
mark is the
discovered how to make
dandelion.
the best tea out of dandelion
Sure.
root, and
Yeah.
I found YouTube videos on this and shared it with a lot of people. It's time consuming, but if you go out and take the dandelions out by their roots, you get as much of the root as possible and just cut off all the roots. And then you got to put them in a bucket and rinse them real good. And you get all the roots and you chop them up real fine. I even put them in a processor until it's just, and spread it all out on a baking sheet and put that in an oven for like, takes a while. It takes 2-3 hours. It takes a good 2 hours on real low heat. and it comes out tasting like, if you make a tea out of it, like a chocolatey coffee kind of flavor that just blows my mind how good it is that I dug those roots out of the ground myself, and I can make something that's almost as good as coffee.
Yeah, that's my daughter's one of her favorite teas is just roasted dandelion.
Yeah,
She
root.
says the same thing. It kind of tastes like cocoa.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, dandelion's amazing, right? And the whole plant can be utilized, especially in the season. So like in the winter, the roots are really good, right? Because it's colder, so it's storing most of its essence and stuff
Oh, right.
underground in the
Okay.
roots.
Yeah.
And then in the spring and summer, the stem, the leaf, and the flower. But the whole plant, I mean, you could still, even in the winter, you can still use the leaves for sure. But the
It's a little more
essence.
bitter,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
If you're for trying to
Exactly.
eat them, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, making teas and probably one of my favorite books is just this California foraging book, right? That's like my new kick right now. I'm going out and
Nice.
foraging.
Nice.
Dude, there in my backyard, I mean, there's, these weeds growing everywhere, and it's amazing how nutritious and medicinal, there's food everywhere in abundance. Nature provides. It's mind-blowing.
I just learned like a year and a half ago to finally recognize plantain. And plantain is just so, it's everywhere like dandelion. There's so much, there's broadleaf and the thin leaf plantain.
Yeah.
And once you start recognizing, it's so easy to see. And I'm pretty sure, I want to double check this because I don't really eat it, but you can eat plantain plant, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's extremely rich in iron and omegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I mean, I know it's been used traditionally for like making a band-aid or a poultice where you smash it up and spread it on your skin.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's edible too. And I'm like, it's everywhere. I mean, you can just be making salad out of a lot of this stuff that's on the ground, right?
Oh, yeah, it's got like real thick stems and stuff and kind of smaller leaves. And I like to pluck the leaves and put them in salads and stuff. My first experience with that is I juiced it. It wasn't the best idea, but I was able to take it down. But yeah, if you just pluck them raw, just right into a salad, oh man, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
Oh, okay. So you were still kind of saying some of the roots of where you got into the Spagyrics and that the
Mm.
book you were just sharing. Don't let me interrupt what you were finishing there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that book got me into the connection of plants and the medicinal energetic correspondences. Then I started looking up books. Of course, the staple is Paracelsus, right? He's the grandfather of herbal alchemy in general. Then I came across this book, right? It's Spagyrics. It's by Manfred M. Junius. Great book. Goes through the actual process of Spagyrics, detailed, talks about the plants and their energies and stuff like that. That's a phenomenal book to start off if you want to dive deep. Uh, People I got into on YouTube was Seja. He's the school of evolutionary herbalism. He I highly recommend him because you can go and sign up for his classes. He does courses. It was like $10, if you really want to get into the actual school, something really cheap. Don't quote me on that. You got to check it out. Prices change, but he's
Sure. Yeah.
got tons of videos on there where he's actually going through the process. Another person I got into phenomenal information was Phoenix Aurelius, and he's out of Utah, and he has I think he's got about 4 episodes on Crow 777, and
Okay.
he's got a small amount of his own videos on YouTube, but he talks about the Spagyrics in a general sense, really good, but yeah, man, it's mind blowing. And then finally, I just said, all right, I'm gonna get into it. I was already making tinctures, and then I got
Hmm.
myself a fairly inexpensive distillation kit. It's 500 milliliters glass kit, and then started trying it out, doing some distillation, making some oils and stuff. And
Nice.
this process, you could do it. You don't even need that kit. I mean, you got a crock pot, a mason jar, and a cork top and some tubing. I mean, you can make your own distillation. And then if you got
Yeah.
a barbecue
That,
grill, you can burn it down, calcify it, and then mix it up.
being careful, of course.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all over the mason jars. I didn't show you this yet, but this here, I was going to show you last time. I don't know, maybe I did. I tried to start a little business a couple years ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
This was the box. It says GrinagainGoods coffee and tea infuser. And this is the little actual infuser right here.
Yeah.
And that goes, okay, you get a regular mason jar and it fits right in there.
Oh, what?
And then you can even put the lid on like that, you know?
That's amazing.
And so, you can get I order these from like Mountain Rose Herbs, and then I'll put them in jars. This is simoleon leaf right here.
Yeah.
And, or, here's another one with some rosemary from my yard. And I'll put that rosemary inside the cage there and fill it with either hot or cold water, and either put it out in the sun or pour boiling water, or put it in the fridge. Sometimes I'll make cold brews too.
Yeah.
And then I made these cozies, like some little handles on them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And when it's the morning, I'll put that, I'll fill it up with some random herbs. And I learn little by little because I don't have any traditional background. I haven't done enough reading. But I know certain herbs that are always good you can use. And I'll experiment with other ones and just mix them in my teas little by little. And listening to a podcast, someone will mention, oh, this herb is good. I'll be like, okay, I'll try a little bit of that. I'll order some and try mix them together and making flavors and stuff.
Yeah. Well, first of all, those two products right there are amazing. That's awesome. Those are like the two missing products I need, because I'm always using mason jars, and that the infuser that you have, that's perfect for any kind of.
I'll give you one if I have one, but otherwise you can still get them on Amazon.
Yeah. Okay.
But they don't sell them the way I made them. I had them specially made to fit in the regular mouth.
Oh, gotcha.
But if you got wide mouth jars, the wide mouth ones are available. There's other companies selling them.
Sweet.
And
man.
they work
I'll
just as
check it
well.
out.
I just kind of like the regular mouth, and I was trying to find a way to make my own little market. What happened was I ran out of money. I learned a lot about advertising, and this is a little bit off subject, but it is also important, because one thing that I learned that's really important about advertising and getting something out there, which is what we're trying to do, the stuff we're talking about, we're selling, in theory, natural law. It's really hard. You can spend a bunch of time creating a good product, and how to make it, how to get it, or you could have it well researched, make sure it's awesome. But how to get it to people is a whole nother thing, especially if that involves educating the market and trying to explain to people why you need this.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a hell of a lot of money, and advertising is a huge budget that I never accounted for.
Sure.
If you're selling something that people are already looking for, it's a whole different ballgame. All you have to do is put it in the right place.
Yeah.
But trying to sell something that people aren't looking for is a whole nother realm of both research and advertising. And to me, that ties into the other stuff that we might talk about later, of how to teach natural law and how to create your own podcast and how to create your own website, how to get it to people, because that's what killed me in the business. And it was such a big lesson that it's something that I want to bring up again. But let's go back to plants.
I can relate to what you said too, real quick, to interject. Doing music, right? People aren't looking for my music, so I had to, I spent a lot of money in advertising and promotional stuff, trying to get my music out there. So there were some hard lessons, and it's not cheap. It takes some revenue for sure to get that going. So
yeah.
And my time was like right before social media started coming out. So it was like TV commercials and, brochures, it was all kinds of
newspaper
stuff,
ads,
newspaper
radio.
ads, magazines and stuff like that, man.
Yeah.
But, good lessons.
Well, yeah. How do you get people's attention when you have something that's important to say?
Yeah.
That's really one of the biggest struggles I've had,
Yeah.
And, it's like I always imagine if we're standing on the edge of a cliff and you see that a bunch of people that are standing near you in a crowd are standing actually on a ledge, you know, and this ledge is kind of shaped like this. And these people are standing here like this, you know,
Yeah.
and you're trying to point out to them, hey, you guys are going to fall off that cliff, you know, it's going to break out from underneath you. But for whatever reason, they don't like you, or, you know, you don't look like someone that shouldn't be trusted. So they're just like, you know, ignoring you.
Yeah.
So how do you make a plea or a cry to someone or a group of people that really is very important without them ignoring you because you sound like a crazy person?
Yeah.
That
No.
is my struggle from here on in life, of advertising myself, how to go about that. Because everything I have to say to anyone at this point goes totally against the grain of what they want to be thinking about or what they want to be talking about for the most part.
Story of my life every day, right? I mean, yeah.
Other than people like yourself that I'm finally discovering.
Yeah, and that can be a struggle just even talking to people, because you know, there's different levels of consciousness, so it's like, it can be tough, right? But you have a great point, and I think, you know, using our passions and our attributes to also teach natural law is a really good outlet. For instance, like gardening and stuff. I want to do a channel just on gardening and tinctures and plants and stuff like that. Well, I can definitely intertwine natural law with that subject. So, and there's a lot of people that love gardening and stuff like that. So, might
You know, that
might tie in.
what's that tying in for me is because I've been doing research recently that my recent presentation was about the Tesseract,
Great presentation.
the cube,
Yeah.
and it got me in this whole thought process and studying about numbers and archetypes and symbols, and how, and what that's reflecting right now is what you were saying about these plants, how all these concepts, all these principles exist in shapes, they exist in numbers, they exist in plants, and they exist in our body. Like the correspondence is in the Hermetic principles. This is through everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if we zoom in on any subject and really just shine a light and focus our light on it, our light of truth, there is going to be illuminated these same truths, these same principles are going to exist, and we're going to find them. So we could make a podcast about just about anything, as long as we went at it with a totally thoroughly honest, truth-seeking perspective, and we would find the same things in different forms and from different angles, right?
Absolutely. Definitely. I mean, that's what it's all about. Almost any topic you could find the foundation of natural law in. Well, unless, like, you know, it's sports or something like that. You know, I don't know how I
Well,
can.
it still
I'm not a
plays
sports
out,
guy.
right?
Yeah.
Even in sports, it still plays out, cause and effect. It's the direct
Oh,
cause
sure,
and effect.
sure.
Um, you know, you put a bunch of people and put them on a meaningless task, and what are you going to get out of it? A lot of meaningless discussion and meaningless,
Yeah.
you know.
Good point for sure.
You know, you could put hell of a lot of energy into this pursuit that really doesn't give any fruit in the end. It's just providing, you know, and to me, that's like one wall of this box, is this entertainment wall. Okay, it keeps you from really accessing your imagination, because your imaginative self is already completely filled up. It's contained. It's already has things to imagine. You know, there's all these pictures and stories we've been watching since we were a kid, or these games that we watch, that if you wanted to start accessing your imagination is going to go right to all the stuff that already exists. So it
Yeah.
makes it that much harder to like a really pure way, like imagine like, I wonder what's inside of a plant. You know, what do the cells of a plant look like? Because if you really put your mind to it, you can figure those things out by meditation and study.
Sure.
People did it, you know, there's books of them drawing this stuff, you know, in the 1800s or 1700s, or, you know, before that, you know,
Oh, yeah.
drawing a plant and thinking about the shapes and the mathematics involved, and comparing it to other ones and talking with other people that are doing the same thing. You know, now you're getting somewhere, you're understanding reality, whereas our whole culture's doing everything but that.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Observation is just phenomenal, right? And crucial at the same time. And a lot of the techniques too, in meditation, in contemplation, is about observing. And I know one of the techniques that Rudolf Steiner was talking about is, connecting with a rock, right? And meditating on what the energies and what's going on inside the rock, and on the macro of the lifespan, where it goes, that rock goes, wherever it's getting washed up or down a river and stuff like that. But imagining the observation of possibilities and just observing. So
That's an interesting way you're
that's the
putting
same
it. 'Cause,
concept I use for my garden, right? I'm observing my garden all the time, watching how it grows, how it's interacting with the plants, with the weather, insects, and all kinds of stuff.
I've done this meditation before where you take a rock and you just look at the different sides of it,
Mm.
and each side, like you're thinking symbolically, like it looks like kind of like a bear with a broken face. What does that mean? What does that represent in my mind? What does this rock mean to me? And just the feelings you're getting from the visuals, from the texture, from where it was sitting, and you just let that all kind of mesh in your head, and that's supposed to help you symbolically reach some truths.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways. And then, it's interesting what you were just saying reminds me, I was just watching this video. I've always been interested in plant communication because I think about, okay, there's native tribes, there's cultures that just grew up on the land, and people figured out over generations which plants to use and how to use them. How'd they do that? There was no written instructions or books. They just meditated. Somebody sat there and meditated and tried something and got inspiration from their subconsciousness communicating with the great unconsciousness.
Yeah.
That's what I think. And
Yeah.
I think that it can be done. And I was watching this video of a woman explaining a process of, you just sit next to a plant and you have a conversation with that plant basically, and you listen to it and you look at it and you think about what its shape and function and design, and like you're saying, history. Just be conscious of it and hear it, with your heart, not so much your ears as your inner ear. And I want to practice that a little more. I think that's something that we're totally missing in our society, that practicing your intuition and sharpening it like a knife.
Oh yeah, for sure. Rupert Sheldrake, right, came up with his theory on the morphogenic field, the field of information that everything's connected to, plants, animals, minerals, humans. You could tap into that, right, and gather information. And even with the indigenous cultures, like ayahuasca, for example, right, when they try to figure out, well, how did you guys know to combine these two type of plants to make this medicine? And, well, the plants told us. That's a common thread, right? You always go back to that.
Yes.
The plants told us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, okay, but is that a metaphor, or is that literal? And I think what you said, yeah, I mean, they're using a different, especially, prehistory. They're tapped in. Their technology is consciousness. They know how to access their consciousness on a higher level, and all the faculties with that, and also the forces of nature. So they're able to tap into that stuff, and we can do the same. And
It's got me thinking what you were saying right now about, I've seen a video of these people that can memorize incredible number of, you could go in store and make 1,000 transactions and they can remember each one to the penny.
yeah.
And then when they describe how they do that is, well, one way it's done, I remember hearing a woman describe, is she basically has a room in her mind for each progression, like number 1 room, number 2 room, a real place she's been, that she knows the layout of this whole building. And she has hundreds of rooms she can go through. And in each room, she places symbols to remind her of what, so she has a structure, basically. It's not just a brain that can do something that nobody else's brain. She worked on this structure in her brain on creating a template, a structure that she rooms one at a time. And just like so many other things, what I do, building a house, you cannot put walls up if you don't make the foundation first. You can't make the foundation if you haven't. And so what seems so foreign to us in Western civilization, this idea of having these abilities with your mind to talk to a plant, for instance, is really just lacking the foundational structure of how to build up to being able to do something like that. And there are real ways to do that, but we're just like children discovering these things, where I believe there's times in history and cultures where, probably still existing in some places, where this is just normal.
Yeah,
They speak 7 different languages we don't speak, and those languages aren't words and letters. Those languages are symbolic shapes, mathematic, universal archetypes,
sure.
or something I don't even know how to say properly.
Yeah, man, that's phenomenal. Great point. Um, well, the subconscious mind, right? I mean, that's kind of with personal transformation and self mastery, is you're trying to create that balance and unify the conscious and subconscious mind. Um, with symbols and archetypes, they affect the subconscious mind. So there's a whole world of information when you can freely tap into that. And that's really cool what you're saying with the lady with doing the rooms and stuff. I've heard similar techniques that people that have that can tap into their memory like that. That's great.
It's
That's
like
awesome.
too the mind control thing, where I'd say the biggest obstacle I get into when I'm talking to other people about the problem in the world that exists, um, the control, the overwhelming control system, and the centralized control. People don't they don't want to accept, or in their brain just can't consider the fact that there could be this evil people that are pulling all these knobs and levers, and that have this great knowledge and know all this stuff. How could any group, contain this knowledge? And I get where they're coming from, because if you don't understand the tools, if you don't understand, it's like when someone's really surprised that I know how to make something out of wood.
Mm.
It's like a miracle to them that I could just take this raw piece of wood and turn it into something that looks like a box with rounded corners. But I have all these tools. To me, it's really simple. I have a tool that makes rounded edges. I have a tool that cuts square things. I have another tool. So all these little tools of mind control methodologies, until I learned about them, I had no idea it's actually possible to subvert the mind of groups of people or individuals, and that there are specific studied methodologies to doing this, and they're like tools. They're no joke. They're not like some TV, you know, putting somebody in a trance by like just focusing you just have this big freaking blue head or something. Oh, it's a real thing. There's actual methods and ways of going about it, and things that people study to help them do this. And that's kind of what I'm trying to break apart in my videos.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with people, you could see it even in their eyes. They kind of like what? Like you're going woo woo malarkey on them, right? They don't get it, and it's
Like they're with you on the detail. Like you bring up Building 7 or something, right?
yeah,
Or 9/11 or something, and they're like with you on the detail, like, yeah, I get it, there's something that doesn't make sense, or some lie that was told, but they don't want to tie it into this whole thing. It's just that one thing. They can't put it together with the big picture,
yeah.
because they don't have all those little details that we studied and understand of how it works.
Absolutely. And that's why it's a science, and that's why first principles, there's that foundation, like you were saying, building the house. You have to have that foundation of knowledge and information before you can understand something that gets really deep. And that's when either people they don't want to hear it, they ignore it, or they're in denial, or they just they're scared. Fear takes a hold. But that's why natural law is not a belief system. It's a science. And once you discover it and understand it, it's the foundation. You can observe it. It can be repeatable. It's there. It's all around us. So
I
I
just,
get that
I'm
same thing
thinking,
too.
I'm trying to think of a way to, you know, when years ago I used to do these ropes course things, like take groups through initiative courses.
Oh, okay.
And I felt like one thing I was pretty good was being a facilitator, which is different than being a leader. I don't really think of myself as a leader, but a facilitator makes more sense to me because, like in a group of people, there's a lot of intelligence present that I don't have or my body, you know. But within, let's say, 10 people, there exists this all these details, facts, intelligences, wisdom, experience, and if you can find a way to kind of get that to come out of the different people, you can. It's amazing what you can learn. But to get people in that place where they're willing to share and listen to each other is the hard part. It's kind of the same trick. And we would have something called icebreaker to kind of loosen up the group. A lot of times to learn everybody's name, you have like a game you play, right?
Yeah.
Something kind of fun and interesting. And what that reminds me of is like studying NLP or hypnosis in order to get to the place where they can embed a thought in somebody's mind, or in advertising, in order to get someone to the place where you can command them to buy your product. First, you entertain the imagination. And that's usually done with some sort of story to capture the imagination, or by capturing your emotions. And that's the way TV and commercials do it, by capturing your emotions. You know, you don't want to die, do you? People are
Yeah.
dying right now all over the world of so and so. We have the solution. Here it is in this little box. You know,
Yep.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're interested. Oh, dying scary. Oh God, now I'm in my, you know, scared state of mind, and I'm easily convinced of solutions, you know.
Yeah.
So how about a positive way as a teacher of natural law to tell a story and honest with someone? Look, here's where I'm trying to get you. I'm trying to get you out of your normal thinking. Here's a story to get you there. And then once you get them there, then you kind of start feeding them little pieces of information that they can't get back out of their head, because truth is like, it's like once you plant that seed, you can't unplant that seed. It's under the ground now. It's going to start sprouting. Well,
Yeah.
not all the time, but it's gonna sometimes.
For sure.
So that's the challenge: is how do we plant those seeds in a way that captures people's imagination and catches their interest? Because most people I know, that they don't have the spark in the beginning to make them want to know. They're convinced somehow from an early age that they're done figuring things out, that there's no more mystery. And that's the opposite of the case. That's the total opposite. There's so much joy and discovery. Somehow we just need to give that. Like, I don't know, my own kids don't have it the way I wish they did, and I don't know how to start that spark. Look at me, I'm excited about what I'm learning. Why aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'm the same way for sure. You with friends or family. Um, I'll tell you, I'll share an experience that was a catalyst. I've always been extremely imaginative, artistic, love creating, you know, when I was a kid in my own little fantasy worlds and stuff like that. So I love accessing and utilizing the imagination, but it wasn't until my mid 30s, 32, 33, when I started coming out, you know, the awakening journey of realization of what's going on inside me and in the environment. It was a psychedelic experience.
Mm.
And I wasn't into psychedelics that much, but I loved the thought of going into different worlds and that kind of stuff. So I decided to try it, and that shit rocked me out of almost my trance, and it was the catalyst of the avalanche of my thirst for knowledge and
Mm.
discovery. And
Yeah.
that was my big catalyst. So
What
that's
was
just
that?
me.
Mushroom or?
I took mushrooms several times. Before that, it was DMT.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it was DMT, and it blasted me off, man. It was great, and
Yeah.
even during the experience, it felt like, you know, my frontal lobe just exploded, almost as if the calcification just came shooting off off my brain. Yeah, it was intense, but yeah, it was great. But, you know, that's just my personal experience. Obviously, psychedelics aren't for everyone, but you know, I wasn't fully ready at that time when I did it. I was researching it and I was interested, And then I just took a leap of faith. I said, fuck it. I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
My path has crossed with it. Let's check it
So
out.
the intention was there that allowed that you to tune into that channel, I think.
Correct. Yeah. And then
Because
I acted on it.
I had some pretty incredible and life-changing mushroom experiences, but they didn't really get me where I need to be in terms of the bigger awakening that happened to me in a different way, way later in life. And then, all those experiences come back in a new way. You almost re-experience them like, oh, okay, I get what that meant now in a different way. There's these new levels of realization. But yeah, I went through a crazy ass awakening experience where I went through 3 days where I didn't sleep at all. I couldn't sleep and I wasn't tired. My brain was running at like full speed. It was like there was these thoughts that were just like trains, answers to every question I could have asked for like 3 days straight. And I was like a crazy person kind of. I was in a really weird state of mind. And but I still think back to all the things I learned during those 3 days. It was almost like plugging into the universal computer and just get like after like whoa, and haven't been the same since.
Yeah. Oh no, I can relate to that. And it was before my DMT trip. I had a bad addiction. But one thing that I knew is that I was into consciousness, right? And I knew that, and there was a quote that always stuck with me. I think Albert Einstein said it. It was, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's always stuck with me. And I like that because, right, consciousness is the solution. In order to raise your consciousness, you need to gather information, right? So when I was coming out of this bad drug addiction, I knew that I could potentially keep falling back into this pattern, this feedback loop.
Cyclical, yeah.
Correct. Unless I changed my mind, right? So that's when I started getting into like plant medicine and plant technologies, and then came across DMT and then had that experience. And it definitely, just the level of information that I was taking in after that, I was definitely, increasing my pattern recognition, look back on my old level of where I was at. And I wasn't going back there. The thought wasn't even there to do that. It wasn't going to happen. So that was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I would say too, I'm curious to see if you agree with me on this. In order to reach a new level of illumination or realization, it requires some level of sacrifice, of giving something up. And the time when I did go through those really intense experiences have been times when I went through a personal difficult challenge of bettering myself or giving up some addictions or changing my lifestyle or habits. And if you think about native cultures, that was always part of the tradition of doing any of those experiences, was preparing the hut or the place where they were going to do it first, the building in their community, the fire circle and the lodge where we were going to have this dream session or whatever. Is all part of the process of having that experience. So
absolutely,
for anyone that wants to have that experience and wants to reach a new level of illumination, I'll just say it takes hard work. You're not going to get there just by doing some drugs. I mean, it happens that way sometimes, but it took a cumulative experience of you or I going on down certain pathways and coming to dead ends and turning back and then taking this pathway before we got to this. Oh my God, look I'm top of a hillside. I can see for days now.
Yeah.
You had to climb through the dark woods and through the rivers and the gullies before you get to the top of that hill. And then you realize, okay, now I got to go back down into the darkness before I can come to another mountain that's taller, because I've reached as high as I can right here. Yeah. Which means, again, giving things up on the way, right? And sacrifices.
Yeah. It's absolutely self-sacrifice, man. you know, 2 years after my DMT experience, it was 2 years of just solid information and learning about myself, about how my mind worked, about nature. Then came across, you know, natural law and that information. And there's a part of you that's dying. That level of consciousness is dying. It's gone. You know, we can see the law of rhythm in the mental transitions that we go through, right? You're not the same person you were 10 years ago. Some people stay in those ruts, you know. That's because I believe they're just not learning anything of value
Right.
to increase themselves.
They're not taking that initiative or making that sacrifice to get to that next level.
Oh yeah. Some
Because as
people
soon
are on
as you
autopilot
do,
for life.
it takes a step of courage, some type of initiative, or some type of sacrifice, or a combination of all three. But as soon as you do that, things happen in life where you get the shivers up your neck. And I got a good little story about this. Synchronicities, they start happening when you get onto some kind of path like this, and you push yourself through a level of courage, or you push through a wall of initiative, right?
Yeah.
Remember in one of the Mark Passio's podcasts, when he was talking about this book by, I wrote it down here, Jay Widener and Vincent Bridges, and it's called The Mystery of the Great Cross of Henday, or Hendai. I never knew how to pronounce Henday. Well, I bought this book because I'm listening to his podcast, and we're about to go on a family trip, and I've never been out of the country other than Mexico, and we were going to London and France, and I wanted a good thick book to read, and the Mysteries of the Great Cross is like, you know, this thick. It's this big book. Let's see if I had it here. I don't think I have it here, but anyway, I had these incredible synchronicities on that trip where we're in France, and I'm reading through this book, and I'm about halfway through, and we're halfway through the trip, and I'm looking at the pages, and it's got these black and white pictures of places in France, in southern France, and my wife's kind of asking me, hey, you know, I don't really have a plan for what we're going to do tomorrow. Is there anything you wanted to do while we were here, since it's Father's Day? And I'm like, this stuff is within an hour. I'm looking on maps as she's asking me this question, and I'm starting to get the shivers. And this place I'm looking at in this black and white picture in this book that I bought on this podcast before I left, not knowing anything about it, I had no idea it had to do with France, you know?
Yeah.
It's like an hour from where we are. I was like, you guys want to go here? There's all these cool statues and all this stuff in this book about these mysteries, and this alchemist journey of Mary from the Jesus Christ story wound up at this church right near where we're at. And we go there, and I took pictures of it all and stood in these places and looked at it in 3D, what was in my book, in black and white, two-dimensional picture. And I'm getting the whole time all these thoughts and shivers and new understandings. And it was a great book, very dense. I need to read it again later after I understand more about the occult. But an incredible experience of alchemy and synchronicity that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been listening to the podcast, if I hadn't taken the instinct to buy that book, if my wife hadn't happened to say, what do you want to do tomorrow? You know, all that stuff just
That's awesome.
fell into place. It was so cool. It was awesome.
I love it when those synchronistic experiences happen, man. It's so cool. And, you know, they happen to all of us. It's just a matter if you recognize it.
You got to be tuned in.
You got to be tuned in, man. And you got to act. That's, you know, that's the basis of consciousness, right? Pattern recognition. So you got to be able to recognize those and act on them big time. That's awesome. That's a great story.
It's a hidden picture, you know, like you're not going to see the hidden picture if you're not looking for it. You know, that was what I talked about in the presentation, you know, like those pictures in the mall where you see the 3D picture pop out. Like if no one told you that there's a 3D picture in there, you're never going to see it. You're just not going to be looking for it. And so that's what I'm working on right now, is how do we convince other people that there is a picture worth seeing? There is a hidden picture.
Yeah.
Somehow maybe exciting them about plants, maybe exciting people about what we can do. We need to show them what we can do.
Yeah.
And that's us learning how to do the things we're doing better, you know?
Yeah. You know, using your talents and your passions is a great outlet. You know, you're a phenomenal carpenter, and, you know, maybe building something, you know, or doing gardening, and you know, that's what I want to do. Is I want to do videos in my garden, but also talk about these principles and stuff like that, because there's got to be the desire for people. They have to have that desire to learn
That's what I'm
something,
talking about. Yeah.
you know. So, and you're right, you have to kind of get their attention where they get interested in it.
Inspire the desire.
There you go. Exactly. So, yeah, I had a conversation with someone, and the lady was like, you know, I don't like being on video. I don't really like doing audio stuff. And I said, okay, but those are the wrong questions. What do you like doing?
Yeah.
Well, I love writing.
What works for you?
Awesome. You love writing? Okay. You ever thought about writing a book? You know,
Start with an article.
There you go. Start with an article, have a blog or anything like that. So she was pretty stoked on that. Let me see. Got to give a shout out to Indica Martin, right? Oh, she, the way she expressed natural law is through a children's book.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And this is amazing.
Give to nature, and nature gives to you.
Give to nature, and nature will give to you, right? And it's got, I'll show you the index. Law of mentalism, correspondence, talks about metamorphosis, the law of vibration, a growing seed, sharing is caring, behavior, time and attention, consciousness, law of rhythm, the seasons of the sun, the 5 elements of nature. It's amazing. It's got
Nice.
all about natural law and nature, all in this children's book. Perfect outlet, right, for people to get. I read this book to my daughter all the time, and that's a great example of doing something that you love to do and implementing these teachings, you know, the science of natural law into it.
Yeah, maybe inspire someone early, plant the seed where someone's young.
Oh man, that's another topic I'm passionate about, man. The youth, you know, people need to understand and apply this information and teach it to their kids. Get their kids out of school, learn about homeschooling or unschooling, unlearn what you have learned about the educational system. You know, some people that want to do homeschooling like freak out because it's got to be from 8 to 3 every day. It's like, no. Homeschooling is not like that. First of all, you're alive in the world. This is the schoolyard. You can go out of your house and learn so much.
Yeah, that's the government's rules. We don't have to follow this.
Exactly. That's part of the indoctrination.
Fake religion.
Right?
Don't worry. It's just a fake religion.
Yeah, exactly. They want you to sit in a box, you know, with the blinds closed.
They're trying to fragment your brain. That's not what you want.
Yeah. Exactly, dude. So, but yeah, you know, outlets, man, outlets of people's passions and, you know, expressing. So,
yeah, that's some good inspiration.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
Sweet, man. Well, I think,
we just reached an hour.
We just reached an hour, dude. That always flies by. We always have great conversation, man.
Yeah. We'll have to just keep doing this then.
For sure. Yeah. I'll send you some links, and I'll post some links about the Spagyrics information, like YouTube videos.
Yeah. That YouTube video, I'd like to check that out for sure. And then if you recorded this, then I'll be able to look up the books you showed.
Got it. Yeah. No, I recorded it. So I'll post it up in a little bit.
Yeah. Right on, man.
All right, brother.
Thanks again, Will.
Hey, man. Enjoy your day, dude. Always good seeing you.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
All right, bro. Later.